Okay, are we ready?
Yep.
Okay. I'm trying my computer one more time here. Okay, I got in. Great. Let me get out of Zoom. Okay, I got it. All right. So the meeting will come to, it's not off. Wait 1 second.
Did we lose Dr. Darby?
Let me see. Yes.
I think I'm back now.
You are.
Okay, very good.
Terrific.
All right, so I had called the meeting to order and we will continue. Had you heard from any of the other committee members, Ms. Pittinger?
Thank you. We have Ms. McClellan, who is excused this evening, and we've not heard back yet from Mr. Williams, but everyone else is present.
Okay, very good. We have a quorum. We will continue with the agenda as indicated for tonight. And first of all, we need to approve the minutes of September 27th. Are there any additions or edits to the minutes of September 27th? Any additions or edits?
None here.
Okay. If there are none, we will accept the minutes as distributed for this meeting today. All right, we'll move on to any board business that we need to follow up on at this time. And we will then have reviews that we will consider tonight. And we have a very short list of cases to review tonight. So that should go pretty swiftly for us. We'll move on to the report from the chair. And I'm going to let Ms. Pittenger go first tonight with her report. So Ms. Pittenger, we can take your report.
Thank you, Dr. Darby. Good evening, everyone. My report will also be brief. As far as intake goes, Ms. Gamble processed 183 complaints thus far this year. I think I characterized them last month as being much less egregious than we've experienced in the past, and many fewer than ordinary at this point of the year, being the end of October. So we have 2 months to go and we only have 183 complaints. And I think that speaks well of, or at least I hope it is, a reflection of an improved relationship between the community and the police, though there are still issues. That you have decided to conduct a hearing on those kinds of issues related to rude and discourteous behavior or conduct, or something that a citizen observed of an officer that they felt was unbecoming. We had talked about organizing and convening that hearing by the end of the year, certainly, but hopefully by mid-November. However, that's not working out. So I believe members were surveyed as to availability and interest in an option of conducting the hearing itself on the evening of December 5th, which is a Monday, or combining that hearing with your business meeting that is scheduled for Tuesday, December 6th. I'm not sure that we heard from everyone, but since we have a quorum tonight, y'all could make a decision whether to embed it in your regular business meeting or to convene it on a separate night. If it was to come into the regular business meeting, it would not extend that meeting by very much, since we don't have that many individuals who will be invited to speak. So it would probably be doable that evening. The third option would be to open that hearing on December 6th in the course of your business meeting. And if it appears that it's going to go long and be prolonged, you can terminate or you can adjourn and then complete that hearing at another time and date. So we have three options: either convene it Monday, the 5th of December, combine it with your December 6th meeting, or pick an entirely other time.
I suggest that maybe we just combine them, since we'll all be convening anyway.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't see the benefit of have to come together 2 days in a row.
Mm-hmm.
I second or third that thought.
I fourth it.
Okay, so December 6th, is it?
Yes, ma'am.
Tuesday the 6th, we'll combine the meeting and the hearing.
Okay. Thank you.
Would we begin at 6 as usual?
That would be up to you. If you were to start it earlier, I wouldn't go much earlier than 5:30, but you can certainly establish whatever time you want to convene, Dr. Darby.
It seems to me that we could start at 6 as usual, especially if we don't have an increase in case reviews. So we would have enough time for the hearing.
Okay.
And how many? I remember you shared the process for the outreach for this. How many?
believe
basically
we've heard, I'm sorry, Mr. Robinson, to interrupt you. I don't believe we've heard back from those who have been contacted as of yet.
Okay,
And I would say probably expect a handful of individuals.
That's correct, Beth. We haven't heard back, and it's the heavy side would be 7, the minimal would be 3.
So we'll give them all, what, 5 or 10 minutes? That would give us,
If they're pre-registered, Dr. Gershio, they're ordinarily allotted 5 minutes.
okay,
If they arrive at the hearing, if they log into the hearing and they want to address you in the course of the, on topic of rude and discourteous conduct, then traditionally the custom has been to give them 3 minutes if they are not pre-registered.
okay. So if we started at 5:30 and we had 7, at 6:30, we're done and we could conduct business? That's assuming all 7.
Right.
So typically we get about half of what we send out, right? Typically.
Yes, and there will be other people contacted, other people who have been, we know of, that have had that nature of a complaint but haven't followed through, or they're stale. But they will still be extended the courtesy if they wish to come.
Okay.
So we will start earlier. I just need to be clear. Start at 5:30 or leave it at 6, Dr. Gershio.
I'm fine with 5:30, but my colleagues, what time you guys get home from work and set up? So I'll leave it to you guys. I can usually get home by 5 to do this. So, but others, and I don't know what Sheldon's work is, and Kiki, and so whatever. And Bill, can you get set up by then, by the time you get home?
I'll be still here at the office either way, so I can do 5:30 or 6.
Okay.
Okay, what about the other members? What is the time preference?
6 works for me because I'm traveling.
Okay.
Okay.
And so I won't be stable.
Okay.
I'm stationary in one
Okay.
place.
All right. Mr. Green?
I'm fine with either 5:30 or 6. But if 6 will be better for a colleague,
Yep.
then I would vote for that.
Okay.
Yep.
So it seems like 6 may be the time, since we want to accommodate as many board members as possible.
Yep. I agree.
So we will have the hearing first, the rude and discourteous hearing first, and then the meeting.
Okay.
All right.
Mhm.
Yes, ma'am. We will advertise it accordingly.
Okay.
You may recall a couple weeks ago, we did hear that the administration intends to drop the 60 college credit or equivalent minimum for individuals applying to be Pittsburgh police officers. A bit of a controversial idea. And we did extend an invitation to Mayor Gainey to come tonight to discuss and meet with you and to visit and to have that discussion about the rationale behind that and potential implications, et cetera. But unfortunately, the mayor had a conflict. He had scheduled a town meeting to discuss creating a disability-friendly city, so he could not come tonight. We will certainly attempt to include the mayor in the future at one of your meetings when it's convenient for him to come and have those discussions about the 60 college credit and whatever else may be of high import to you, of concern that you might want to address with the mayor. As far as our board, our investigations, our investigator's position, I'm sorry, we did conduct a couple of interviews and there were more being scheduled. So hopefully by at least by the end of the year, we will have a new investigator on board. We have the community liaison also to develop and to solicit applicants for. We have a lot to do between now and the end of the year, but it is our intention to at least have candidates for those positions by year end so that we can start the new year with a full staff complement, including the community liaison position, which is so critically important to maintaining a sense of connection to what's going on in the community that's dedicated to that purpose and not relying on individuals splitting their time between community relations and investigations. Speaking of community relations, Stephanie, Miss Bridget, and I think was
Yes, Tiffany.
Tiffany was with you.
Yes.
Our three, Miss Hampton, Miss Hunt, and Miss Bridget attended to the opening of the community center in Northview Heights. It was, I believe, named in honor of Calvin Hall, who was a police officer who died in a violent circumstance. But they attended that, and they're hoping to reestablish a connection there with the Northview Heights residents. Now they do have city police as their safety guardians. You will recall that the Housing Authority police were eliminated and absorbed. So it's now another city facility that police are responsible for. I understand they're having a community day. Miss Hampton, is that correct? On the 29th?
Yes, next Saturday, 2 to 6, I think it is, at the same community center, public safety center, whatever they're calling it.
Super.
Yep.
There's been a lot of talk in the last couple of weeks about the establishment and the appointment of members to the Allegheny County Independent Review Board. You'll recall that we had a lot of discussion with county council members about the development of that board. We had offered some means of support that perhaps it could be partnered. It doesn't appear that we're going to be in any active support role for that entity, but they do have 8 of their 9 members seated, and they will begin developing their operating procedures and recruiting local police departments to participate in the review process. They will have no effect on you or on your status as the City of Pittsburgh Independent Review Board, which has been in existence and operating continually for the last 25 years. Will certainly be available if they should ask for any kind of assistance. We will certainly provide whatever we can to assist them. But as of yet, there has been no engagement with that group. Mayor Gainey has been soliciting community perspectives on desired qualities for the next chief of police. As you recall, Chief Schubert retired and went with the FBI. Acting Chief Tom Stangrecki is still at the helm. Apparently, the city administration has launched a nationwide search for a chief of police, for candidates for chief of police. And the community inclusion in that discussion with the mayor began last night at a community meeting held at Carrick High School. I'm not sure of what the substance of the offering was to the mayor. We have certainly on a generalized level spoken to the public when we had the opportunity, not directly with the mayor, but to the public generally, what characteristics we would think appropriate and necessary for a chief to be successful here. And we'll continue to monitor that process, but we will stay a bit aloof from the process proper because we don't want to put the board's future position at risk of being perceived as having any kind of a bias associated to the chief of police and his or her management of the Bureau of Police, keeping you away from the direct connection of any kind of decision making. And I don't mean decision making in terms of, yes, this will be the person or that will be the person, but to just maintain your distance so that there's no problem in the future. There was an article in yesterday, and I believe it was covered again today on WPXI Channel 11, related to the city's drones that we own in the city for the police or EMS or search and rescue functions. Apparently, there was an investment of about $65,000 made in the acquisition of 2 drones a couple of years ago. COVID interrupted the deployment of those drones, and it was not resumed after the major COVID interruption started to subside. So the director of public safety in the public news report yesterday indicated that they were still trying to develop a use policy for drones, and that until such time as that use policy is in place, that those city drones will remain stagnant. They're not going to be deployed. However, there's also confirmed reporting that when there has been an appropriate occasion for the use of a drone, that the city has borrowed drones and used borrowed drones for particular circumstances. The irony there is that if you're not going to deploy your own drones because you don't have a use policy and you're concerned about privacy and purpose of the use of a drone, then it doesn't make sense that then you're going to turn around and use a drone that belongs to somebody else for the purposes that aren't even established yet as permissible under city policy. So it appears that a little pressure in that area has prompted a renewed interest in devising a program under which drones can be deployed in the city of Pittsburgh by city of Pittsburgh personnel for search and rescue or other circumstances in which such a tactic would be appropriate. We'll follow with that story. We'll follow on that, and certainly agree that there are privacy concerns and there are potential circumstances under which it would be distasteful, if not illegal, for drones to be deployed by public safety. So we're anxious to see what kind of policy is proposed, and we will inform you as that develops. Mr. Robinson and Ms. Brown are attending the Citizen Police Academy. They're members of the current academy, and that opened on October 5th. And I had the opportunity to visit with that academy group on opening night with Ms. Bruni, Erin Bruni, who's the manager and director of OMI. We had a good session that night. And I hope that the rest of the program has been satisfactory for Mr. Robinson and Ms. Brown.
Yes, I guess I'll definitely say it's been more than I expected. And the class was much more diverse than I thought, not just in demographics, but also in motivations for coming out to the class. So that's been a pleasant surprise, and interested to see tomorrow. I guess we're going to see the SWAT team operations. So yeah, it's definitely been different than I expected it. So thankful for the opportunity, or the nudge, because I've been familiar with it for years. John Tokarski's been trying to get me to go for years, and I had resisted due to some preconceived thoughts about it. And thankfully, this opportunity kind of pushed my hand, and I'm glad that it happened.
I thought it was eye-opening. The reaction from the community and just how engaged they were with the information and asking questions. And the officers who spoke, I thought, I just saw a lot of transparency. It was like, look, we're here for you so that you can have a better understanding. And I really appreciated that. I was real comfortable. So I believe I missed one and I have to make that up, but I will be there tomorrow for it. Definitely interested in this SWAT session. So this should be pretty interesting. So good stuff.
The SWAT and the canine evenings seem to be the most engaging.
They are.
Yeah, they're so specialized too.
Yeah.
And that's where you really get the opportunity to assess for yourself the level of professionalism that those specialized units really do possess. They really are. They're very well trained. They're very serious about their work, and their discipline, their professional discipline it's right out there for you to see. So I hope you enjoy that session. And then when the K-9 come along, that's a fascinating evening too. But
So
the whole program I think it's been one of the most successful and effective tools that local police departments have to communicate directly and open their door to the public to see how they operate. So I'm glad that we have those opportunities, that we have to attend that, because that means we will, and we learn a lot. And it's their opportunity to tell you how what their expectations are and why it's important for you and OMI, but for you to assess, whether they're meeting those expectations or not, because that has a value internally as well as externally to the community at large, which, leads to suspicion and criticism, while internally it can demoralize and really interrupt the internal development of those officers that are involved in those specialized units, each unit that presents to you. And I believe, Madam Chair, that will be the end of my report. Unless members have a question, I'm happy to answer.
Mr. Robinson?
yeah, I just want to add a comment and a question about that as well. So the comment one was, I was surprised to see how many people who are part of the class who are not city residents. So that was one thing I just found that interesting. And obviously some of the stuff might be transferable, but they're municipal police officers. So thought that was interesting that so many people wanted to come there. And two, the question was just, you mentioned, and I saw last week at the bomb squad, the amount of training that they're required for those specialized units, which made me wonder, and in light of the questions now about requirements to come on the force, what are the training or the professional development requirements for your patrol officers annually? Do we?
Yes, they have the Municipal Police Officers Education and Training Commission establishes on an annual basis the topics that are available for them and the mandatories. Their firearm qualification is a mandatory annual qualification. If you recall, there were close to 100 officers who couldn't, their certificate, they couldn't qualify on their firearms. And so they had to go through some remedial work, but that is a mandatory. And they have to have 16 hours of annual in-service, which will include a combination of mandatory and elective topics. They do have legal updates annually so that they are exposed and informed of court decisions that have precedential value to their practice, such as traffic stops and searches and seizures and things that the court has ruled on that are new, relatively new, but they're certainly appropriate for a patrol officer to be immediately aware of, because it affects what they do in their engagements with people every day. So there is ongoing annual in-service plus ongoing annual mandatories.
Okay, thanks. I guess 16 hours seems low to me, considering what the bomb squad does. I think they have to go monthly for training.
Oh, yes.
Which
the specialized units, yes, they do have their own set of requirements. Mr. Robinson, I'm sorry, I misunderstood, but
yeah,
yes,
you're right. I heard you.
Yeah, they do.
Thank
And
you.
so does SWAT. And the problem that happens internally, especially now because the Bureau of Police is short on personnel, is building in that training and covering the law enforcement needs, the patrol needs, and every time there's a specialized training that comes around that they have to, for their certification, for the accreditation, if there's a new topic or something that every officer needs to have training in, they have to build that into their schedule. And when you're talking about 900 people and covering, and when you're down a couple hundred, that becomes a real challenge. But they do have to accomplish it. And you know, that's why they have a training academy staff, and that's how they get their mandatories in.
Okay, and I think that, I know one of our cases, one of the ones that's been on there for a while, I noticed, I think the investigator asked about, had they got training or had they read something about a change in the law pertaining to the stops of marijuana. And so obviously I see how that's applicable. And I'm just hoping with the strains that they have on manpower that, and I'm hoping that they don't lax on that. Obviously that's a management issue, but I'm hoping that all their officers are meeting the required, at least the requirements. And if they're not doing anything elective, I can understand that, but at least getting the mandatory required trainings.
Yep, and that's the legal update that they have to have every year, and as they occur. And that, in that case, that's a perfect example of why it's so important.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? I'm pleased to hear that you're enjoying the academy. It was just an eye-opening experience for me, and each week was more, each meeting rather, was more exciting for me because I was learning so much that I didn't know, and it just gave me a different perspective. But as Ms. Pittinger said, the K-9 and the SWAT were two of my favorite sessions for sure.
And I do apologize, before we move on, I did have one other comment. It was back up a little bit. Specific to the administration's, I guess, proposal at this point on changing the requirements. What do we know what that process has been like, and like who, like, obviously I know the opinion that you had shared, Ms. Pittenger, but, and I know they have public meetings for everything else, but I didn't recall seeing a public meeting to discuss that. And just curious, do we know how they came to that conclusion, and what is the next steps on that becoming policy?
Well, the Civil Service Commission has final say over those kinds of things, Mr. Robinson. I do not know what led to that decision by the administration, other than it being a potential cure or be helpful for filling the vacancies that the Bureau of Police is facing. I mean, reality is it's going to a lower common denominator is what they're doing. And if you reduce that education, that post-high school education, if you reduce that, or you hold it to the 60 credit or equivalent, then at least you're having some confidence that an individual has either had extended period of time working with the public in some form, a record of full-time employment for a period of years, military service, which they already have the benefit because of the extra points, or they've gone on and completed a 60 credit program of education, higher education. Those are indicative of someone who's serious about either their own personal development, they have an interest, or they're striving to become qualified for a job that they aspire to. When we remove those things, we remove a very powerful screening tool, as well as questionable recruitment for skills, whether they're basic literacy skills, basic analytical skills, self-discipline, all of those things, they become very, anybody's guess, so to speak. And it's crass, I know, but it just becomes anybody. And there are characteristics that you look for someone with whom you're going to entrust public safety. I do not know, other than that, why they would reduce that equivalency. It's not unique to Pittsburgh. Across the country, some departments have looked at reducing, and some have reduced from 4 years to 2 year higher education. Some have eliminated any college credit whatsoever or equivalency. It's coming down to the shortage of candidates who wish to apply to become police officers. And so if you widen the pool, then you might be able to hire to fill your vacancies. I don't know what specifically drove this decision. That's why we had hoped that the mayor or a designee would come tonight and have that discussion with you so we would better understand it, but they were unable to do so. That report that your predecessor board had produced 20 years ago remains very contemporary for the recommendations and the recognition within that report of what the value was of the 60 credits or equivalency and what the drawbacks were. So I don't know. I do not know what led to that decision.
Okay.
I
I'm
am
just
concerned
who's in the
about
room.
falling.
I'm sorry.
I am concerned about the ability of individuals, how we are going to screen to assure that they are the capacity and are capable of the complexities related to the practice of law enforcement. It's not a simple job, and there are intricacies to it that have severe ramifications if they're not adhered to, or if someone is violated because of a misunderstanding of something. And that speaks to why you have to have people who are mentally agile and capable of and demonstrated their own analytical skills, their responsible use of discretion, because police have such discretion, and their understanding of the circumstances under which they have certain options available to them to gain control of situations. So I don't know. Maybe we will be able to. Someone can join in at the December meeting briefly and give us an update, or at least explain to us what their intentions are and how optimistic they are that this will help relieve the staff shortage in the Bureau of Police.
Well, I think it is an issue that will garner a lot of discussion, simply because of the expectations around qualifications and understanding of human behavior and reacting to any number of situations. So I can see healthy discussions taking place about that. Any other?
Dorothy,
Yes.
I'm sorry. The age thing isn't so big a deal because under federal law you can't
That's
have
true.
a firearm until
Yeah.
you're 21.
Right.
And in the city of Pittsburgh, they have to provide their own firearm. So, there's not even a little wiggle room there. We know at least the individual is going to be 21 years
21.
of age. Or you bring them in at 20, and by the time they complete the academy, they will have turned 21 maybe. But that part of it is not of major concern.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, I will make my report at this time, the chair's report. And tonight I want to inform the board that I have to step back from my responsibilities as chair of this committee due to additional family responsibilities mainly. And because of that, I would like to stay on the board, but not serve as chair. So I would like to appoint Dr. Gershio to be chair until an election can be held. And we will identify a process for that to happen. I asked Ms. Pittinger to share with us what that process could be given the standard procedures of this board. So Ms. Pittinger, can you share that with us?
Certainly, Dr. Darby. And first, before I do that, I just have to extend our gratitude as a staff and my admiration of you for the leadership you've demonstrated for so many years as chair of this board. It's
Here.
You've been a tremendous
Thank you.
asset.
Thank you.
You've been
And
awesome.
thank you.
And
Yeah.
Dr. Darby, these are some big shoes to fill. I don't know.
Don't worry, you can do it.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I personally want to thank you for your leadership and your guidance all these years.
Okay, I appreciate that. So, Ms. Pittinger, do we need to determine the month for the election?
Let me just bring everybody up to the customs of this board in the past. The custom has been to, well, first of all, your rules and operating procedures only indicate that you will hold an election to elect a chair and a vice chair. There are no other requirements attached to that process. So the board's custom has been to take voice nominations and voice votes. And I think on one occasion there was a secret ballot conducted. So you're not subjected to any specific procedure. You may determine if you want to do open nominations with a vote following immediately after the nominations, or you can set a time limit for someone to declare their candidacy or for nominations to be made. And at the next business meeting, report those nominations and conduct a voice election, or conduct a secret ballot. And that secret ballot is possible on Zoom through their polling function, and it can be done anonymously on that polling function. So we can do a secret ballot as well as a voice vote.
Okay.
And I would recommend that however you wish to do it, if you want to put a contingency that you have more than one nominee for one of those offices, then you may want to resort to an anonymous secret ballot.
Secret ballot. Mhm.
Yeah. If you do not have any contest for chair or vice chair, then a voice vote would probably be adequate. You have that discretion. There is no other requirement, and what I just described, I believe, is permissible under Robert's Rules of Order as well.
Okay. What month would the board like to hold that election? Just to start it, I would say January, so we can start the calendar year with a new chair.
That makes sense to me.
Okay. And those interested in the position should contact Ms. Pittinger. And we will inform the board members who are not here tonight as well.
Yes, and
Question,
we can announce those nominees at the December meeting.
Correct. And hold the election in January.
Okay.
Mhm.
if we hold the election in January, would that person's chairmanship become effective immediately?
Yes, because we will hold it at the beginning of the meeting.
Okay.
Mhm. As one of the first items on the agenda. Okay. All right. Any other comments, questions about that process? Okay, we will move on now to unfinished business. I don't think there is any. New business. We received the CPRB calendar, and we have them identified for each month. They are noted as being held in council chambers, and it will be up to this board to determine which will be in person and which ones will be on Zoom. So can we briefly have a preference for at least the beginning of the year in terms of the meetings of this board? Preference of Zoom or in person?
I've grown quite accustomed to Zooms, and for me, being able to do this at home as opposed to having to travel downtown or some other location has really been advantageous. So that's my
Okay,
preference.
sure.
And I think that the attendance through Zoom we have less issues with reaching quorum when we do this virtually. At least
I
that's been
agree.
my experience over the last couple years.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I think health-wise, I don't know what's happening outside, but it doesn't seem like it's getting better. And just to keep everyone safe, because we don't know, with the flu and whatever variant pops its ugly head. I agree with virtual. I've grown quite accustomed to virtual.
Okay.
And maybe once or twice a year, if, the public seems to want to see us in person, maybe do one every 6 months in person, maybe during the summer when the COVID and the flu isn't so yucky out there and people would be less hesitant to convene in big groups.
Right. I think that's a very good idea too. They need to see us as being an active board, willing to be in the community physically. So I would hope that we will reevaluate it at certain periods to determine if we will continue a certain month on Zoom or if we will have it in public.
Say I also have gone accustomed to Zoom, although I also have in recent months realized the importance of being in person. So I definitely value that, and so I wouldn't be opposed to coming back. However, I hear the rest of the team here, so I don't have any objections to that. And specifically knowing the issue of getting, not necessarily my experience on this board, but others, of getting a quorum. So if this is a way to help maintain that we definitely get attendance, then I can also support that. But I do like the idea of trying to find one or two, or even at another time, coming downtown.
Okay.
So I haven't seen most of y'all in person yet.
That's true. Okay, sure. All right, well, we will note that. We will move now to the case reviews, and you received them in your packets. We have a total of 11 cases. No public hearings at this point for case reviews. We do have 3 for full investigation. And if there are no objections, we will take these as a whole. They are cases 171-22, 170-22, and 157-22. So these are authorized for full investigation. May I have a motion to accept these 3 cases?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
It has been moved and properly seconded. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. The motion carries. We have 5 cases that we need to authorize for a 30-day extension. Are there any questions about the individual cases in this category?
1, 4, 3, 2, 2.
If not, we have case 143-22, 134-22, 123-22, 100-22, and 20-22 for a 30-day extension for investigation. May I please have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
All right, may I have a second?
Second.
It has been moved and properly seconded. All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. The motion carries. We have 1 case that is unsustainable, and that is case 148-21. So this case will be dismissed because it is unsustainable. May I have a motion to dismiss case 148-21?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
It has been moved and properly seconded to dismiss case 148-21. We have no cases that are unfounded. We have a case that is outside of our jurisdiction, and that is case 02919. May I have a motion to accept that case as being outside of our jurisdiction, therefore no further action on our part?
I so move.
Second?
Second.
It has been moved and properly seconded. All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it, the motion carries. We have one suspension. And this remains suspended from a previous action that we were aware of. And it's 6322. We have received additional information that indicates it should remain suspended, simply because we were waiting for additional information and the outcome of a preliminary hearing. May I have a motion to suspend case 6322?
So
Do we
moved.
need a motion to suspend?
Well,
the case
it's-
that's already in suspension?
I didn't know. Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay, because I asked for the motion. Beth, I need your guidance on this. It is suspended. Do we still need a motion on our action?
I don't believe you do, actually.
Okay.
I guess we're not changing its status. We're
Status,
asking
right.
to-
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense, really. So thank you, Mr. Green, for pointing that out. And you have a listing of other cases that are continuing in the review category for the board. So you will receive updates as the status of those cases change. So those are the reviews for tonight. And we will now move to, we've had a discussion about the meetings, but the next meeting is December 6th via Zoom, and we will have the rude and discourteous hearing prior to the board meeting itself. Are there any public comments tonight?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I would just like to make kind of a random observation. When I received the email with the subject line rude and discourteous hearing, my first thought was that it had to do with one of any number of public meetings that I've attended where people were misbehaving.
I think it was you.
Yeah. How about that, Mr. Green? You on your bad behavior?
Hey.
Madam Chair, I have one technical question. Next month, will you oversee the meeting and the
The hearing?
yes.
You have been appointed until the election.
Okay.
So that means you start in December.
Just looking for clarity. Thank you.
Okay.
I'll
But
start sweating about December 1st. So
no, I'm here, but you'll do fine. You have the experience. You'll be fine.
thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Do we have any public comments?
I don't see anything. Christine White Taylor, but I don't see that she's wanting to say anything.
Say
She's just in the
anything.
audience.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm pleased that you joined us, Christine. Okay. With that being the case, we have completed the agenda. And I have just learned that a new Robert Rules of Order is when you have nothing else on the agenda, the board chair can declare the meeting as adjourned. So I declare